Hello, welcome back to the Evolve podcast with me, Louis, and CEO of Black Man Timing, Sam. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good. Stop hating on me, okay? I've actually not even said sorry yet.
You haven't.
I'm so sorry. I'm just
2 o'clock,
sorry,
Sam. 2 o'clock. 25 minutes late. 25 minutes late. Sam doesn't like getting bread anymore. Sam doesn't like doing the thing, apparently.
I like the
last
money.
episode.
I was doing something. If we want to ruin the first 15 minutes of this, I was doing something, Lewis. Okay. I was otherwise preoccupied preparing myself.
Fine.
Anyway,
have an accountability measure in place.
I have been. Go on. Explain the accountability measures. You can understand.
We're gonna discuss about this afterwards, but
okay, cool.
We're gonna talk about it afterwards. But 25 minutes late, Sam. Apparently you don't like bread anymore.
I like.
Apparently you're cozy. Anyway, right. Tell me about your week. How you doing? What have you been doing?
My week.
Straight into it. Straight
into it. Welcome, episode 3. Let's get to the point.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. It's episode 3, right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, we can't lose count. We've only done 2.
We can't. It's like, oh my God, we've gone so far. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this journey, guys. We've been doing this for so long. We appreciate you. Right, so my week has been eventful, I think is one way to put it. I'm learning to manage a few characteristics of myself. Okay. That's the one main thing to actually put forward. And one of them is, as much as I like money, I'm terrible at holding on to the money sometimes. Like, I have to have a purpose for my money, or I have to have another account that I can't access to make sure that money is put on hold so I can put it to work later. And I'll phrase it in this way. I'm currently at the stage in my life where I'm positioning my savings into areas where the savings make me money, right? So I'm looking to investment opportunities, for example. I'm looking into all of this. I'm basically, I don't want to be in a position where all I have is cash. I want to have cash working on something to make more.
Making your money work.
I want assets, exactly, right? And I'm only in the early stages of that. And I say that because I had a very terrible spending habit before. And I think I've come to realize that my fiance and a lot of people around me have great saving habits. So when everyone's looking at me like, oh, Sam, you got money you're spending, it's because they're saving the money. I'm not really making that much different compared to most people. I'm just spending it like stupid. They're saving it, but they're looking at me assuming that I'm saving the same way they are, but still spending like crazy, which means I must have like a huge lump sum over, right? So recently, the company I used to work at allowed me to exercise my options, and I did. And I got the tax man got a lot more than I did. But I got a nice little payout. And I think it was just a exercise of just being like, no, that many zeros doesn't mean you have to spend that many zeros. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean you have to waste it on something. So I've started splitting savings. I started learning more about, investment opportunities, not just crypto, but, certain like bonds, certain like premium bonds and stuff. I don't really see that as an investment opportunity. It's basically like a long-term lottery. But I even looked into that. I've been looking at different things. But the main part I've been coming back to is, well, how can I put that kind of money into Anxious Extrovert to make it do more? And it was very unfortunate because as well as that happening, my CTO, Ollie, the guy who helps with a lot of tech, came to visit as well out of the blue because he goes snowboarding. There's a snowboarding shop near where I live. So he dropped his snowboard there and he was just like, oh, do you want to catch up? We caught up and then I messaged the old head of engineering from the company he used to work with and he was like, yo, I'll come around, I'll cook you a meal, let's have a drink. And I was like, cool. So we ended up doing that and it was like the boys back together, but we would just talk about tech and we're just like going on about stuff. And it was just so inspiring. Now, it was almost like the universe has gone, all right, you want to save this money, you want to put your money to work. Well, let's sit down, let's talk about it. Let's make this work. So we basically came up with some competition ideas for how we're going to get more users onto Hub, the Anxious Extrovert content platform we're making. Inspired me to start, working more on finding more content creators to help us build the platform up. We made some tough decisions. One of them being that we didn't always want to launch the platform with ads on it. We wanted to bring ads in later, but then we kind of had to sit there and be like, that's such a terrible user experience to have ads come into a platform that didn't have ads before. So we decided that we're going to relaunch and it's going to be harder to get users on, but we're just going to launch it with ads on the platform. We're going to try and make money. And it's a few little things like that. In terms of making tangible progress in terms of like, these are the numbers of people we got now, and this is all this stuff. it's been a lot of like internalized, self-development for me. Ollie's also been working on himself as well. I mean, mainly snowboarding, but he's been working on himself and trying to get better at his own tech.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of planning. And I think the weird part about it is that none of that is doing the thing, which is what we talked about last episode, right? None of that is that's about.
I think
in a
at the
way,
same time, though,
it was the thing because I was doing something that I really.
I mean, obviously, it's always going to be like, for example, it doing the thing. I think encompasses a lot of things because of course,
exactly.
You and your business, it's going to be you have to have those planning sessions. You have to do networking and all that sort of stuff. At the same time, it's not doing those sort of not as active things for your business all the time, because if you spend all the time planning and none of the time executing, it's basically nothing, right? So It's having that balance of actively doing the thing as well as all the planning and reading and knowledge building and all that sort of stuff. But no, that sounds good, man. I'm glad that
it's been really good.
You've spotted an area that you need to work on, and you're doing something about it. Whereas I think before, correct me if I'm wrong, you would have accepted that you would have spotted it and then just be like, yeah, but I'm me and I'm going to do me.
Literally, that is literally me. Like, I'd be like,
if you don't accept me as I am, that's
exactly. I'm like, I was like, you see this money, yeah? I'm going to spend it because that's who I am.
And I want
to. I don't kind of like my show and have. And exactly, but then when I look
to the extreme.
To the absolute extreme. And I think there was a time as well, my mum kind of just sat down and she was just like, let's work out. Because I've worked since the first year of uni and I had nothing to show for it, right? Because I spent the money as soon as I got it. And my mum was just saying, like, if you actually even save like 30% of the money you earned whilst you were working at uni, think about the nice cars you'd have. You'd have a bigger house by now if you even save like 30% of the money you're making rather than going out all the time. And I was just kind of sat there like, yeah, but I had the time though. Yeah. When I think back to it, it's like, I could have a much better time right now if I save.
You're like, it's like, but I can make more money. I can't make more experiences.
Exactly. But now I'm seeing that.
Sam, that's a joke. No, you're doing well. This is good progress. I'm glad.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like now I'm looking at it, kind of going like, I could have so much better experiences right now if I saved and I was spending the money now.
You know what?
Anyway,
you gotta think with long-term gratification in mind.
Yes.
And I think that's something that we're always taught about short-term pleasures and things like that. And long-term is boring, but it is more beneficial. So I'm glad that you're on a journey to do that. And I think that's what I think is good. I think it will translate well. Like you said, it's translating well to your business because businesses are going to be long-term. You want your business to be long-term. You want the pod to be long-term. So
exactly.
I think it's skills that will, leak into other areas. It's good for your life, be good for your marriage and things like that as well. So it's all positive stuff.
I mean, I'm pretty great with the marriage still.
Yeah, fine, do things for myself.
Just go listen to him like, shut up, you shit. But no,
someone jumped off the book.
One last update, though. It's I did recognize that one thing I've tried not to do, because I remember in the first episode I might have talked about this, is when people ask what do I do, I mentioned three things, right? I'm a PhD student, I'm a product manager, and I'm a entrepreneur, right? But mainly when I say entrepreneur stuff, I always like wrapped it around anxious extrovert. And then one thing I learned, one thing I realized, like, well, I do this Evolve podcast now with Louis. So is that a fourth thing, or is that part of the entrepreneurial thing? You know what I mean? And then a part of me was kind of reassessing that, and I was just like, I think it's part of the entrepreneurial journey. Because when I was working on like the new the website design, I work on a website for us. I work on the design for it. I'll show it to you probably end of day today, actually. I'll wrap up and show it to you end of day today.
Cool.
But I was working on it, and I was thought, but I could also be working on like anxious stuff right now. I could be working on this right now. I could be doing this. And my brain was like everywhere. And I realized it's because I hadn't like organized as slots in my calendar for Evolve specifically to focus on this specifically. So that's something I'm focusing on doing right now. It's putting a unique slot in for Evolve. But I think in my head, I have to wrap it under one of the three things so then feel like I'm not burning myself out. Because even though I'm doing more work, in my head, I feel like it's organized as one of those three things. And I think this is part of my entrepreneurial journey. Everything we're doing is part of that entrepreneurial journey for sure.
One thing which I find helps me, because like I said, it's the business, it's training I have to do, it's podcasting, and it's also work. And one of the things that helps me be organized is focusing on, like, I think I got this from Cody Coate, because he's a YouTuber, entrepreneur, recently had a kid. And when he had a kid, it helps him focus on what it is that he needs to do. And the way he thinks about it is, okay, what are the things that I actually have to do today, and focus on those things. So it's those time constraints. And I think that's how I very much organize my work and say, okay, what are the things that I actually have to get done today? What can be pushed to tomorrow? What are things that I could potentially delegate? If it's none of it, when can I do it later? And is it that urgent? So obviously we going to do the pod weekly. We know that we have to come to it at this time. And in terms of like prep and editing and stuff for it, we can organize it. And if you want to research and do all that stuff, that again, we can be somewhat flexible with that. Obviously with your work, most of the things are going to be, okay, I have to do that today.
Yeah.
And what are the things that you can either, if it's for the pod, could I do it? You know what I mean? Is there something you can potentially delegate? So I think you've got to lead with what are the things that you actually have to get done today, and the rest of it, don't worry about it. So in terms of you thinking about the pod, anxious extrovert, job, just focus on that day and have a week view in mind. One of the things I've actually got from Mind Journals is like this weekly planner, and you have like a week view and then review your week. And one of the sections as well is like review your tasks and what things were blocked, what are the current blockers, what are the things that have to be rescheduled or delayed. And so that kind of helps put on paper what's in my head. So I recommend kind of focusing on the immediate things you have to do, and the rest of it, don't worry about it. Yeah, I'll send you links to.
I'm going to give that a go. Yeah,
I'm going to shout out Mind Journals, because Mind Journals are absolutely awesome, man. And it's good.
Mind Journals. I think
I mentioned it in my affiliate. I messaged them. I think I told you about them before. I spoke to one mate as well with journaling. But yeah, man, it's good. I think that'll be a good way for you to kind of focus on organizing your stuff,
right?
As well. So
let's do it.
Yeah. Any other final updates for your week? Anything else?
Apart from that, it's been it's been an okay week in terms of massive achievements. I've not got, like, apart from the self-development stuff, a lot of it is just stuff that I have to appreciate, that I'll see the benefit of it in the longer term. Yeah, and one thing I'm learning is being satisfied with the process and just being happy.
Absolutely,
with it.
man.
And I think that would actually that's mainly to do with the episode, our focus today, isn't it? Of passion versus craft. And I think one thing I want to, before we delve into that, I don't think I've been fair in giving you a fair chance to talk about what you've been up to this week. To be honest, so do you talk about that? We can dive into the episode.
I'll speak about my week. This week has been very good. It's been a very good week, and I'm gonna hand you your flowers, actually, because this has been really, really good for me doing the pod, more so than I expected. So I'm very, very happy that you got me involved, and it's been the most focused I've been in. I don't think I've been this focused ever, to be honest.
Wow.
And it's been really, really good. And I spoke to my mum, and mum was like, this is like the most up that you've heard me in months. And my girlfriend has said the same. So I appreciate you, man, for getting me involved, because it's been very good. And yeah, like I said, I very much believe in what we're doing, and it's good. Although we waffle and shit, it's been very, very good for me.
It's natural, man. It's how we talk. It's authentic. It's how people talk normally, not bloody phrases 24/7, man.
But yeah, I just wanted to express my gratitude.
I appreciate that, bro.
It's been very, very good. I've been very, very focused. So to kick things off, Monday, I had a call with a sort of like a mentor of mine, sort of like friend who my brother introduced me to. He's a film producer, director. Had a good catch up with him, because I think I've known him now for like 3 years. Was telling him what I was up to, and he's currently like getting like budget to kind of lead and direct the film as like a screenwriter, and he's very much talked about how he's prepping to kind of lead his crew and his directors to kind of get this film done. And he talked a lot about physical fitness, which I know is an episode that we're going to go into. but I wanted to talk about it in this one because it was like in my mind a lot. And he just wanted to be like, okay, like, am I that person who I want to become to do this kind of project? Because he thought he was going to have to do this in like quite a few years' time or like a lot later. And so he's like, okay, if I want to become this really awesome like writer, director, who commands like respect of the room and things like that, he's like, I have to get in the best shape I possibly can and, be disciplined. And because if you look disciplined, people are going to trust you to lead them, because if you can see that you're disciplined with yourself, it's like a respectable sort of trait. So he is got into ridiculous shape. Like, he was ripped before, like he's a jack dude, but he has like 13 abs now, and he is just so focused on just like becoming that guy. Just is one of the things which I think Matthew McConaughey spoke about when he accepted an Oscar, like who his role model is, and he says it's him in 10 years' time, and he just is very much focused on who is the person who he wants to become, and he thinks about what are the behaviors of my ideal self would do, and he acts accordingly. So that's one thing which I really kind of took inspiration from, and it's kind of something which I've been trying to focus on much more, as opposed to thinking of like somebody else to focus on, sort of like what are the things that I want to do to become my best self. So that was a really good catch up with him. And I took a lot from that conversation, and it's led to another call I'm going to have with him and a producer that he's working with for a short film. Because I've been telling him about editing updates, I told him about the pod and things like that. So he was like, yeah, if you like the short film, like, he'll arrange a call. So he's one of those people who, like I said, like, I don't have much to offer him as value, but he's always willing to help me out. And he's one of those people who like raises other people up with him. So that was a really good call. So moving on to Wednesday, I said last week's episode, I had a chat scheduled with the LA film producer. And when I tell you that I was really worried about saying this in the episode, because I was like, what if he mugs me off and I have to just say, yeah, I got mugged off, like he didn't actually call. I'll take you through my emotions. So first of all, Tuesday actually was supposed to be the call. He said, oh, sorry, Lewis, can we reschedule to same time Wednesday? And I said, yeah, no worries. Gets to Wednesday. He said, 7 o'clock. Yeah, call me then. Great. 7 o'clock, call him. No answer. It's like, okay, a few minutes. Call him again. No answer. He said, he texted me, like, hey, Lewis, can I call you in an hour? Yeah, sure. So it's now 8 o'clock. No call. 8:15. I hear nothing. And in my head, I was like, you know what? It's a good lesson. Game's a game. And I just went straight to just finishing up editing the second pod episode. And I was like, you know what? Game's a game. Like, I've learned a lot. It's even good to get this far. Of the first person I emailed, I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'll just continue focusing on what I'm doing and not dwell on it, because, like I said, it's just part of the process. He calls me 8:40. And I was like, oh, damn, he actually called. So I completely had to let go of it at this point. I was just like, you know what, just get charged. So he was like, hey, Lewis, it's Dave. Like, how's it going? And like, he's LA as fuck, but really, really cool dude. Yeah. And I thought he was going to be very much like Hollywood, LA dude, and just be like, right, let's get straight into it. Like, what do you want? My like assumptions were completely wrong. He was like, yeah, tell me all about you. Like, why are you getting into this, all this sort of stuff? So I told him like everything, like about how I got into editing and what do I do. You know when you can tell someone is actively listening? Because of course he has the right to ask like why I'm wasting its time, but he genuinely gave a shit, and you could tell when someone gives a shit and isn't just kind of being like, right, why are you wasting my time? Like, why should I give you any light of day? Which is, I think, is a majority of people in LA. Don't get me wrong. Might be, but apparently I was wrong. Because I thought this was going to be very cutthroat, and he was very, very sound. So I asked him for loads of advice, and one of the things which I felt very good leaving that conversation, because he's kind of confirmed that all the things that I've currently been doing have been the right thing. And I mentioned how, I used my first marathon to kind of relaunch my journey with editing. And he was like, well, with editing, it's kind of like the same thing. And because you're disciplined enough to do a marathon, editing is going to be the same sort of experience. Like, it's very much long term. And so you seem to have a very long term attitude, and he thinks I'm going to do really well with my current approach. And he says that he gets a lot of people who will reach out to him, and then, they'll catch up, and it turns out they've done nothing. But he says, I don't think you're one of those people, so I can see you going really far. And that was one thing that made me feel really, really good. And yeah, I expressed a lot of gratitude for that. And so the advice that he gave me, because, a lot of editors, as I said on the pod last week, that there'll be a lot of editors who will be really, really good at the skill and just solely focused on the skill, and they'll be the best editor in the room. But if they don't have the other half, which is outreaching to people, networking, being likable is a skill. Because he said it's very much a referral business. And he says you're doing the right things by reaching out to people like me. Continue doing that, because a lot of people won't do that, and it makes the difference. And I asked him, like, what are the things that will separate one? Say, you have myself, you have like 10 other editors. What's going to make you pick one over the other if you all have the same set of skills? And he says the one thing that he needs is he wants people to bring ideas and storytelling. It's the main thing. And he wants people to solve his problems. So I'm very much I have kind of like a new lens for my editing. One is the craftsman mindset, which we're going to go into in a bit. And how is this going to solve a producer's or director's problem? And so the bits that I don't like on editing, I'm now looking at a lens of, this is probably something other editors won't like and won't give much of a shit about and focus on it. I'm going to make sure I know as much about it as possible, because that'll overall make me feel better. Because if I'm experiencing these emotions, this is probably the thing that people will skip over and not give as much of a shit about. One of the things which he said as well has worked very well for him is that you would understand how many times I get the roughest shit sent to me first. And he says one thing which I do is I make my first cuts my final cuts. And I love that, because it shows, A, you give a shit about the craft.
Yeah.
And B, it saves you time.
Yeah.
Because if you send your first cut and you send it across and they're happy with it, cool. You could now use that extra time doing 10 different drafts, and you can go get money from someone else in that meantime. So he says, under promise, over deliver, and, just think about the value that you can give. And I asked him, how did you get to the likes of, working with Netflix, working with studios and things like that? And, how could I possibly get there? And he said, to be honest, you're not going to end up speaking to like Spielberg and things like that. What you need to do are find, because I think a lot of editors will naturally be like, oh, I'm going to go to editors who have done the thing. But actually, you want to go to producers, because producers are probably looking for an editor. And what you need to do is become someone's go-to editor for everything. And it's similar to how Nolan's go-to musician was Hans Zimmer for all his movies until Dune. And then Hans Zimmer was like, I can't do it. And for Oppenheimer, Nolan actually went to Zimmer, and Zimmer was like, I can't do it, I'm working on Dune. And so that's how he gets Ludwig Göransson in. And now that's his go-to. I'm sure it probably collaborates with Nolan, but at the same time, you basically want to align with someone who's at the same level of you, who's progressing at the same trajectory, and you basically want to become that person's go-to for everything editing. And it's very rare that you'll switch out with someone who is already at that level, because they probably have their go-to editor for everything. So, yeah, I took a lot from that conversation. So whilst I think it's useful going to editors who are editing, I also want to reach to producers who don't have an editor, and I want to align with that person to become like their business partner for what they're doing. Because if I go to an editor, I go, oh, do you know anyone who's editing? And they go, oh yeah, actually, they might be be like, actually, I can't do this, or refer you to someone. But most of the time, they're going to want to take that editing job because it's their work. So whilst the editor's going to help other editors, at the same time, it's that competition element as well. Do you know what I mean? Because an editor's not going to refer me to a producer if they want to work with that producer, because that's obviously their business. So go to a producer, realize what they want, because at the same time, it's not going to be an editor who's going to be hiring me and picking me most of the time. It's going to be a producer or a director or people who actually want to do the video. So
question.
Very, very good. Sorry, go on.
You mentioned about the link of this behavior to the craftsman, and like the way you talk about this, it's very passionate. It's very passionate, and I've got like a bit of apprehension around connecting my passion with what I do and all these things. But I want to just start the topic off with you editing.
Yep.
And what seems to me is that this is a passion of yours. Well, it's a passion you've discovered over time, but you're applying like a craftsman mentality to it. Like you're building it. You're going through you're going through habits of asking for critique. You're essentially going through a process of having someone throw your dreams around in front of you in the hopes that they might say that you're doing a good job. But if they say that you're doing a terrible job, it's basically helping to rebuild something deep, a process that you deeply care about because you're passionate about it. Right? So I want to understand more about that experience for you, to be honest. Like, what was it like? One, what was the emotions like eventually when you got the call? Because he kind of caught you off guard. So it must have been like more natural, I presume. Like when you joined the call, were you nervous when you joined, or was it more comfortable that way? And talk more about like the passion side of things as well. That'd be nice.
I think I was actually pretty chill with the call. Of course, there's a lot of pressure because I want to extract information from this person. But one thing which I've kind of learned when I'm in a position where there's a power imbalance is that I think it's just natural just to come across as much as myself as possible. I'm not going to try and adapt new behaviors for anybody, because I think particularly if this individual is regularly getting contacted with, they can tell when someone's bullshitting them. So I don't think approaching it any other way other than how you would do it will help. That's just been my kind of experiences where I needed to get an interview, needed to get a job. And the thing is as well, I think it's a win-win, because once you're comfortable enough to be yourself in those situations, you can actually ask the questions that you want to ask, as opposed to trying to sugarcoat it because you don't want to come across like a dick. That was kind of like why I was able to extract that much information. I was like, look, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I want to be, and what can I do? And I think if you can come across showing your enthusiasm for being in it for the long haul, but not acting like you know everything and trying to like sell yourself, and it's not like jumping on a call and immediately being like, yeah, I want to work on your movie and all this sort of stuff. Like that comes with actually getting to know the person and, being authentic and not being a dick about it and not trying to just use them. Obviously there's a reason why I'm reaching out to you, but also you've got to do your due diligence as well. It's like, just a slightly pivot. It's like I listened to a Diary CEO like early podcast, and Stephen Bartlett was saying how he got a DM from someone being like, oh, how'd you get started? And he's like, bro, I've done podcasts, and there's 52 podcasts right now about how I got started. And he gave him this advice or whatever. He was like, you should do a book. And he's like, I've done a book, bro. Like, and it's like, you got to like do your research. Like I've watched this guy's like videos on how to do it. And so you're coming to the phone call with things that he didn't cover or things that you want to dive a little bit deeper into. But sorry, what was the second half of your question?
I think the second half was more, it was connecting it to the actual something that you're clearly passionate about. And I guess it was more, were you worried about a risk of your passion essentially being thrown back in your face as this isn't something you should pursue, or this isn't something that's worth doing? Essentially, like something you care a lot about being critiqued.
No.
I understand.
I think with something that you are quote unquote passionate about, you have to be willing to take criticism, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't, you're gonna have a really difficult life. This isn't just for editing; it's for anything.
That's true.
Like
That's true.
people gonna hate our podcast, Sam. Do I care? No, because I believe in what we're doing, and I think it has a good place. And if you genuinely believe that, you're fine. So if you turned around and said, "Yeah, I don't think you're cut out for it," I'd be like, you know what? That's your opinion. Thank you for being direct and telling me. I would ask him why he thought that and get clarification. And because if you have haters, your haters are telling you criticisms, right? And so that's feedback. And you've got to, and if it's genuine feedback, it's sort of, I don't like the way that you blah, blah, blah in the pod, or I don't like this about your editing style. That's feedback. And so it's actually giving you hints on something to work on if it's a genuine reason for hatred. Like if it's someone's just naive and they're just racist because they hate us because we're black, right? We can't do anything about that. That's just being the game that people are racist.
For you, bro.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But again, if so I think there's ways to kind of utilize that feedback. So if you said, I don't think you're cut out for this and you're just not that guy, I'm stubborn enough to like to prove people wrong as well. And yeah, that's why I use that. But
fair enough.
That's just me though. I think a lot of people who because I deeply think that this is what I want to do, and the reason why I believe that is not solely because I like doing it. It's something which, and this will go into what we're talking about. It's something that I am willing to do for a very long time. And what the book So Good They Can't Ignore You talks about is that passion is actually a side effect of good work. A lot of people who are doing the things they do love it and say it's a passion is because they've done it for a very, very long time, and they feel like they are very good at what they do. They believe it has an impact and they think it's a positive influence, and they have some sort of level of autonomy and element of creativity in it. Linking to that, the reason why I think editing for me works quite well is, and I think I touched upon this in the first episode, is again, it's that element of control and that flexibility. But also the book Ikigai, which I think I talked to you about as well. So Ikigai is a Japanese word, which basically means your purpose and like your reason for getting up every day. And it's kind of like a Venn diagram of like 4 circles, and in the middle is your Ikigai. And it's what the world needs, what makes you money, what are you good at, and what you love. And it's the overlapping of those 4 things is your Ikigai. What the world needs, I don't think it's that much of a part of it. I think it's another way of saying, do you think it has a positive impact? So I want to work on film because I believe it's entertaining. It provides a sense of escapism. I like editing because it will make me money. I like editing. I like how it makes me feel, and I actually like the work. I think it's a positive impact, and I just enjoy doing it. I'm getting good at doing it, and it can also make me money. And linking that to the craftsman mindset and what So Good They Can't Ignore You talk about is that creativity is just an element of it because I'm in the creative space. And control, I have obviously, if I'm working on a film or even if it's my own edits, I have complete control of what that looks like. And again, I have more control because it's just me. And if I'm working again with people, I'm not working with that many people. It just has to be all the audiences. So reading these two books and understanding that, again, there's a lot of overlap between the two, I think for me is why it's good for me personally. I don't think that, because in So Good They Can't Ignore You, will say like passion is dangerous and it's rare. I think passion has to be an element of it for you to stick with it. However, you have to have some element of the craftsman mindset to be willing to be good at it. If you go into something complete for example, if I said editing's my passion, right? And I go into editing day one with no skill, and I go, oh, this is really hard. Maybe it's not for me. That's completely stupid. The passion mindset says like, oh, it's because of my passion and the fact that I'm doing it, it means that I'm passionate for it. That's not really true. People usually enjoy the progress of getting good at something. And one of the things that talks about is deliberate practice and, practicing all those little things and all the skills. And I talked about that earlier in terms of what are these things that the editors usually don't like. And I'm now approaching that with a new lens. That makes sense.
Okay.
I hope that's answered
like that.
somewhat of your question.
I like that. So you know I hate reading books. So you gave me a few videos to kind of watch and get my head around the book. And I think one takeaway I got consistently from all the videos was the reviews of the book is the case that, okay, it's great to have a passion. Don't rely on that passion being your only answer to getting that job opportunity you need that will actually fulfill your passion or your values. And I think the other aspect that I learned was that in many cases, you develop a passion through a craftsman's mindset,
absolutely,
craftsman's approach. And a lot of people, if you ask them, like, what is your passion? Many people can't answer that question directly, or they can't give you like an approach of how they can actually utilize their passion. Or in some cases, people will say like their passion is just things they like doing for fun, right? Yeah, that isn't something you take a bullet for. That isn't something you'd ride or die for. It's something you just enjoy doing. And I think that's the main takeaway I got from it. And watching those videos, it being a video, some of them being on YouTube, so I've given me a chance to go into the comments. And I think one of the videos you sent me, the guy used a Steve Jobs conversation in front of university students as like an example of like, kind of used as an example of like a bad advice of, this is like, don't follow your passion. But a comment I read was very much like, well, no, because there's more context to what people who say follow your passion apply to. And it's kind of like, follow the joy of the process could be what someone else translates passion as. Because not everyone understands fully what many words mean. Everyone has their own personal experiences that they attach to meaning.
Absolutely.
That's in some cases, that's how slang develops, right? That's how all these like, oh, that girl's bad. That doesn't mean she's a bad person, but there's like attachments to that, there's an understanding that we all have for that word. And I think one thing that was brought up was like, someone advising you to follow your passion isn't them saying, oh, just follow things that, that sound cool and stuff. It's more follow things that give you meaning, follow things that make you enthusiastic to want to put effort in. And there's more to it than that, because to actually be in a position, and I've learned this personally as well, to be in a position where you can explore a job that gives you like one of the three key things you actually need to feel passionate about your job, which is the ability to, the control over your time, the ability to apply your own creativity. And by that, it's not being really good at doodling. It's the ability to apply your own approach to how you answer a problem, how you solve a problem. To be able to get those opportunities, people need to trust you. You don't just turn up in the room. And I think if you're put in a position where people have just always given you what you wanted, there's probably a bit of nepotism in your life. You're probably just spoiled. And for anyone outside your close circle, you're a risk factor, because to them, you come across as arrogant. Because there's no evidence attached to your creativity or your unique approach to doing this. You might think you're amazing. You might think you're like the best person in the world, like you're hot shit, basically, right? You look at your stuff, you go, yeah, that's perfect. And naturally, because you love your stuff so much, you just put down everything else that you see. It's like, no, it's not good enough. And one behavior I've noticed people do is that when they are comparing their work to others, their reasoning isn't consistent. They like they adapt their approach to the work. So let's say someone came up with a product idea, not the actual product. They come up with a product idea, and it's a car that goes from point A to B. And then someone goes, oh, I've come up with a product idea, and it's actually got investment in it, and it's a car that goes from point A to B. Now, an arrogant person would literally look at that and be like, yeah, but does your car go really fast? And that person would be like, oh, yeah, my car goes really fast. And be like, oh, my car like brakes harder, right? So that person would be like, oh, my car's like got good braking and stuff, but it's also like really stylish and all that. One thing I realized that arrogant people do, people who think like, I deserve to do my passion, you should believe in my passion, and like, I don't need to prove to you. Those people tend to just make up the benefits of what they've done on the fly. So that arrogant person will be like, my car's really fast. At no point up onto this journey, I bet, have they considered their car being fast. They just considered that I've made something that goes from point A to B. But because they've been pitted against someone who's gone, oh, I've got these benefits because my car's fast, and they're so like eager to prove that, well, no, my passion is like more valuable than your experiences, they will just say that it's for us. And that if you translate that into like real life experiences, that's like someone applying for a job that they think they deserve. They like start throwing achievements in that aren't actually achievements, but they've embellished it to sound like an achievement because they want to like, they already believe in their passion. They already believe they can do the thing, right? They just want to convince you to like, just give them a chance to do the thing. And I admire that. But the risk for someone who's hiring you is that if there's not actual solid evidence to back this up, I'm just bringing you into the team to basically mess with all the hard work we're doing based on your arrogance, essentially. And what stops it being arrogance, what makes it confidence, and what makes it clear that your passion connects to your confidence is the evidence of your achievements and the evidence that you're willing to like develop and still like follow some kind of rules and guidelines that that team or community has, so then they can work comfortably around you. And I think that's one of the most important things. And I've learned that myself because I kind of turn back now and I look and I kind of go, I used to be a production specialist and I hated it because like the team I was in refused to let me do anything my way, or they refused to like let me achieve things my way. And one, I did recognize a few things. Obviously, one was that they weren't ever going to give me a chance. I was just there to basically gap fill whilst they kind of bring up someone else, right? And then the other aspects I realized was, well, even if they do or they don't give me a chance, I need to prove to other people that I'm worth the time and I'm worth the opportunity to explore my creativity. So then I got to work in my spare time. Did I enjoy having to stay up till like 12 a.m.? No. Did I enjoy missing every lunch break for a week till I do little projects? No. But one thing I did enjoy was knowing that each time I did that, people recognized it and people were giving my flowers. People were like, okay, Sam, I see you really care about it. I see that you're really passionate about this and like you can really get into it. And it's like through the hard work, I was able to show my passion and I was able to evidence that journey. And it's almost like, although I didn't envision that this is the journey I have to follow, I just thought people would think, oh, he really cares about this, so he must be good. Let's give him a chance. I had to work in alignment with the passion to show that this is how much I care about this thing. So what I'm essentially trying to get to is like, I don't think there is a direct, like, you're either passionate or you're a craftsman. I think there's a fine line of both. And I think being able to understand that your passion must be presented through your work, through your craftsmanship mentality.
Yes.
Being able to do that is what the real difference is. Because if you're just passionate for the sake of passionate, to many people, you're just arrogant.
And one of the things which the book talked about is there in the 70s, there was a book called Parachute, I think by Richard Bowles, I think his name. And it's the first kind of like concrete evidence of like pushing the narrative of, oh, you can follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. Ever since then, job satisfaction has been the lowest it has ever been because of this advice. And whereas I think the narrative should be, what are you willing to work 20 years at to be good? What are you willing to do consistently for 20 years? And then you get that side effect of passion. And I think another thing as well on the other side of it was the people that you work with as well are a core element of why people stay in jobs, in addition to the creativity and the control that you get, as well as the impact, which you talked about as well. So people are also very important because people can kind of ruin your passion as well. And I think this goes with why, going back to the advice, that guy's name's David, the LA guy, why being likable is so important in the industry. And he said he had examples of, he worked with this guy who, really awesome editor, but he was absolutely insane. And he just didn't want to work with him anymore. So I think it all loops back in. I want to ask you as well, in terms of, because like I said, I think we've now discussed that obviously passion, I think, is important, but I think when I say passion in this context, I think it has to be an element of you enjoy most of it. And I think that's the important part. You enjoy most of the thing that you're doing. Because I think there's no part of it which everybody likes every single element of the job or activity. Like in editing, there are some things that are boring, but I enjoy the majority of it, and I'm willing to But at the same time, I'm willing to do those boring bits because I enjoy it as a whole. I don't think I think when people think passion, they think, I absolutely love it every single day. I'm happy all the time.
No.
And it's like cocaine and I get all that dopamine from doing it all the time. That is very, very rare. And I think that's what Hal Newport is talking about. But I wanted to, sorry, what are you going to say?
What I was going to say is this links back to the previous episode where we talked about happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And people think stuff that makes them happy is passion. And I disagree. I think passion is motivation and fulfillment together. Some passion is basically caring about something enough to go through the troughs and then go to the peak and keep going, knowing that there's going to be another another trough coming. There's going to be another low point. But you care about it enough to keep going and keep learning, developing. And I think the passion is like the motivation driver that helps you stay fulfilled. And if you're in a job that's fulfilling, it's very easy to get very passionate about it, and it's very easy to feel like it's part of it. It's a part of it. But yeah, go ahead, ask your question. Sorry.
Before that, because I just remembered this conversation I had with I'm going to drop name Rosie again the other day, because Rosie is a very good example of passion, because Rosie did a degree in classics, but Rosie works as a recruiter, and she headhunts in like energy and oil, and it's a role that it's one of those roles that she fell into, but she's really, really good at it, and she's really, really good at it, makes her a lot of money, and she enjoys the people that she works with, she gets the opportunity to travel and things like that. And the other day, we were having a conversation, and she feels really fulfilled by her job, by her work. And that's really, really good. And we're having a conversation because she was worried that, does she feel like this is what she's supposed to be doing? Should she focusing on something else? And I referred to basically this whole pod, and I was like, you feel fulfilled by what you're doing. You feel like it's having a positive impact because you're helping people get their jobs. You're very good at what you do, and you like the people that you work with, and you also really enjoy it. So I don't think that you should take that. I don't think there's anything wrong that you enjoy what you're doing and you feel fulfilled in that way, just because somebody else might not necessarily be fulfilled by doing that thing. It might not be necessarily what you did your degree for, but you ended up in this position and you're now really good at it. You feel good. You think you make a positive impact. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If there's other passions that you want to explore, like writing or drawing or whatever it is, we can talk through that. But I don't think that there's anything immediately wrong just because, you're not feeding the homeless every day and you're not on TV and you're not a CEO or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with that because you feel good most days, then you don't. So I think you're in a very good position. And she was like, yeah, I never really thought of it like that. And I was like, check out the pod this week. But
keep your eyes peeled, girl.
But yeah, no, I think that's I think that was like very because there's so many examples of people who have fallen into jobs and ended up really liking it, and it's because of all these components of you like who you're working with, you have a bit more control now because you've done it for such a long time and you've stuck with it, and now you can work from home if you ask your boss to because he trusts you, and also really good at the thing, you're getting more money, and you think that you believe in the work you're doing as positive influence. That by definition is fulfillment in my book.
Yeah.
Across these 2 books, you have covered off everything because you're getting money, you're feeling good, and you think you're doing a good thing, and you enjoy it. And you're also getting good at it and doing that deliberate practice.
Yeah.
And you're getting so good that they can't ignore you. That's the whole point of the book. But, sorry, were you going to say something?
We went on a tangent. No, we went on a tangent. We did go.
I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah, what was the question?
So bring this back to Anxious Extrovert. Last week, I asked you, did you see an opportunity in the market for it, or was it a passion? And you said it was passion-led. So with this in mind, how would you answer the question if I were to ask you it again?
I think I would answer the question a bit clearer, to be honest with you, because I think there's a trigger point for everything. And I think the passion was ultimately the initial trigger point, right? The need to exercise something that I really care about in some way, shape or form. And there is evidence to that behavior, and there's evidence that behavior benefits and actually extrovert myself, and there's evidence that behavior not benefiting us as much, right? So I think it's a passion, but I think it's a craftsman mindset that actually brought it into reality, or brought it as far as we did. So at first, the passion mindset was like, I really want to do something in mental health. I really want to, because I've gone through it and I understand it. And I think it's important. It's important to me, so it must be important to everyone else, right? That's the mindset I went into. I was like, so I'm going to sort something out. And then I actually did the research of looking into it. And I realized that the gaps in the market I thought existed weren't actually there. They were already being filled rapidly by those other services and everything else. I went from thinking I want to create a clothing brand to then donate some of it to mental health charities, to learning more about how certain charities work, and then getting very uncomfortable with like how predatory some of them are. And then I decided, well, no, it's just going to be a business. Then we're not going to make a charity. It's going to be a business. It's going to be honest. That is making money, but the idea of making money around it is honest and transparent and authentic. I guess is the main thing. And I delved into that, and I was like, okay, cool, this is the direction. So, like, long story short, I really cared about it, and that's what instigated it. But there were habits that kept creeping in. So the habits of like, because I think it's a good idea and because I'm so passionate about this, and I care so much about this, that there's value to me doing it in this way. Because if I don't do it in this way, then, and I don't like the other way I'm doing it, then it's not worth doing, kind of thing. We went into like building the breathing app, for example. And then I kind of sat back and I was just like, we're really struggling to make anything unique in this breathing app. I'll come up with a concept that might help some people, but it's a concept that's meant for business, but I apply it to myself and how I make myself a unique person within the team and how I make myself more valuable. So I looked at it and I was like, I'm struggling to think of features that this app has, as an MVP has, that someone can't get somewhere else and have a better experience with it. And I kind of went back to the team and I was like, sorry guys, I don't like it. Like, we're going to have to can it. And then like, they were just like, what the hell? So I'm working age. And I was like, no, like, I appreciate that you all like followed my passion. And that's what's dangerous about passion. It's like, you can sell a story so well, absolutely, that you're in danger of bringing everyone down with you when that story doesn't come out the way you plan. So we went on that journey, and the team were very much like, what the fuck? Like, we believed in this, like you. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, this is a crap idea. So we went on to like, let's make blogs. Let's like write stories, and people just like, and then we could add ads to it and donate. And everyone's like, okay, cool. But it's because like my whole team, everyone around me really believed in my ideas and what I stood for. So like, they just kind of went with it because of the energy I brought to it. Was like, if he's that passionate about it, God, it must be good, right? I hadn't done any work into actually making sure it worked. Even though I'd done like most of my masters was about planning out the business model and stuff, there still wasn't enough evidence to make sure like the ideas that the business model needed to like carry through to the end were working on. Anyway, so that's why we've landed on Hub now, and unfortunately, like 2 of the guys have left the team, and I completely understand. Like I've said, I think in the previous episode or before, like it just didn't work out. They've left. My fiancée Sarah was actually part of our team, and like for the sake of, it's better to keep it separate in certain areas. Like she's gone like, I want to be a part of it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be helpful for me to be this close to your business. So she's come off it, and it's just me and Ollie, right? And now we're actually getting traction, but it's because like I'm not just sat there in my own little head going, I'm a genius, everyone loves me, my ideas must be perfect, so if I come up with it, it's going to be gold. I've now started going out to universities, talking to people. We've been developing the idea. And as much as I've hated it, because I hated the critique of someone basically picking up something that I've been desperately trying to prove works for years and destroying it, I've just gone, I don't care. I'm going to put myself in a position where people can destroy it and tear it apart, because I'm fed up of like firming L's with this idea.
Yeah,
we're in a position now where we're like, we've had the critiques, we've launched, we've stopped, now we've relaunched, and we're like, okay, we're in a good position to keep going now. We're getting traction. People want to sign up now. People are like, oh, tell me more about the platform. So it's working that well. So yeah, that's kind of like the journey of like, it was a passion to start, and slowly I've developed a craftsman mindset. And I think one thing that we talked about was in the deliberate practice. There's a lot of skills I've improved on unknowingly through like just a desperate need to make something work. And
like repetition?
Yeah, definitely. Just repeat, like, I was an okay web developer. Like I can do a bit of HTML, CSS when we started actually for it.
Absolutely.
Now I'm like working with like React, JavaScript. I'm like working with like servers and stuff. I'm basically like sat in AWS And then anytime I'm like met with a new code challenge, I'm just like, easy. I always know how to solve it. I'll find a way to solve it, no matter how long it takes me. And like that's a weird like mentality that's come with this through like coming after work, working on a certain feature of the website, coming after work, and then doing a bit of like reading up on a certain market, like trying to understand more about AI because everyone wants to talk about it, and like, is it worth all this stuff? Like the passion to do all of this stuff and to actually like go and look into all of this. I developed it through a habit that I trained use the craftsman mindset or craftsman's
That's
approach
good, man.
of like just deliberate practice, just keep going. And the weirdest thing is I did it unknowingly. So when I started watching the reviews of the books you suggested, I was just like, oh, that's why I can do it. And that's why it's actually working out.
You should actually listen to the audiobook. It's very good.
I think I will. I will do that.
But I think one of the things which I've used, I think it goes hand in hand with working smarter. So I don't know if you can see this. So this is
I see that.
Adobe Premiere Pro sort of like keyboard. So in order to learn all the shortcuts and everything like that, I have this laid over my keyboard. Because every single person who I spoke to was like, you need to know all the shortcuts, you need to know how to work quickly and all this other stuff. So I was like, how am I going to learn all these shortcuts? And I didn't even know this sort of thing existed. But I Googled it first because I was like, this will be a great thing to sell if this hasn't existed. But yeah, I have this sort of like laid over my keyboard just so I can know absolutely everything. Yeah. And I'm actually going to take it a step further. I want to kind of like get flashcards and quiz myself on what every single button does, just so I can know it like without it. Similar to how like, you know, like notes on the like piano and things like that. I want to get to know this inside out. But that's good, man. It's good that this is why I really liked Cal Newport's book, because it confirmed things that I knew I was already doing. But also it kind of explained, because I hate the question like, oh, what's your passion and what are you passionate about? And for me, that question is, I think I have now more clarity on it after this conversation. I was thinking about it. My passion is basically film and the escapism in it, and editing is the best tool for me to utilize that. And I think it's like constructing like narratives and looking at cool sequences in film. I'm not exactly crazy about it, but I love film, and editing's the best tool for me to kind of do the thing that's in my head and to kind of get that visual on screen. And editing's the only way I can do that. Like if there was a better version of doing what Premiere Pro can do, like in VR or something like that, and I could go, oh, I want to use my hands and like pull this screen here and put it there and things like that, that would be way better, but that thing doesn't exist.
I really like how you worded that. Like your passion is essentially, your passion is because you've directly connected passion with like, what's your hopes and dreams? What do you want to achieve, right? Anyway.
But it's like, for example, people go, because an easy criticism, right, of craftsman mindset and things like that would be if someone goes, oh, okay, my passion is football and I'm 35 years old, right? And it'd be like, oh, I can't become a footballer. But, okay, what do you enjoy to do? It's like, well, I enjoy talking about football with my mates. I would say to them, well, why don't you start a podcast with your mates and talk about football and things like that? Or why don't you I'm not going to go off about football because I don't know about it, but like, what are ways that you can get involved in football in ways that aren't actually about a footballer? If it was about playing football, that's obviously a bit more of a challenge, but what are ways that you can then pivot and still get involved if you don't have like the skill set to become a footballer? If you suddenly become a footballer at 35, what are other ways that you can get involved within your passion, quote unquote? But yeah, that was just one caveat I wanted to say. But yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I think it's tied. I can actually flow in flux. That's what I was intending to do on a similar topic. It's when you talk about your passion, I've also like through this conversation I've learned that my passion is the freedom to create. That's what I care about. Just the freedom to make something of something else. And that's what web development allows me to do. That's what my job allows me to do. And I think the difference between having a passion and being able to explore it fully and having a job that is your passion is, unless you don't have any shareholders, you're self-employed and you somehow just what you do makes money. Like being an artist is probably like the ultimate fulfillment of someone's passion, because it's purely your creativity and purely your willpower, and it's purely your output that gives you a return in that investment, right? But if you apply your passion to a job, you've got to tailor the outcomes of your passion. And you've got to basically manage your own expectations of how fulfilling that passion will be, or that your application of what you think is a passion is. And why I say that is because the company expects certain criteria, or they expect something from you. Unless you're at a crazy high level to a point where like you're a major shareholder, you never fully be able to exercise everything you want to do in every way you want to do it, right? You never fully be able to just do whatever you want. And I think my passion is the freedom to create. And because of that, I respect that in the company I work in, I'm allowed to be creative and I'm allowed to apply my own unique approaches. But I'm also not allowed to create everything that I want, because that's not what they want. However, being the founder of Anxious Extrovert, being a web developer, means I get to actually access that freedom of creation. But once again, it's limited, because the limitation of that creativity is, what does the audience want? What do they? What do our users want, and how can we actually give them a benefit? Because that's what returns back. So throughout all of this, one thing I've learned is that if I really enjoy something and it's a hobby of mine, there's an opportunity to turn into money. But if I really want to enjoy it, I have to just accept that this isn't a money-making thing to do. I'm just doing it for me. So as much as I build websites, one thing I refuse to do is build websites for the company I work for. They always have to hire someone in to do that, because I don't want that experience to taint the enjoyment I get out of the full creativity. I've built websites that no one would ever use, but I just built it because it was a fun idea to build for me. Like, it's a crazy thing, and I'll just delete it once it's done because no one's ever going to use it. But I've just done it, and it was fun.
There's so much studies into when you turn a hobby into a job, it saps the joy out of it. But one of the things which I wanted to touch about as well, and I think you kind of described it, was that what So Good They Can't Ignore You, in terms of how to get to that position where you have control and you have creativity and you have autonomy. You have to have what is called career capital, which is essentially the skills. And you have to have the skills and the knowledge to get to that point where you have complete creativity, complete control, and things like that. So just taking it back to editing, I currently have very, very little career capital because, again, didn't study in film school and started quite late. And so I can't just go up to what the craftsman mindset say is that I can't necessarily go to Netflix and ask for a job because I don't have any career capital. You build career capital in what you say web development. You're doing that thing outside of work. I'm doing my editing outside of work. You gain that career capital in order to exchange that for the control through creativity and things like that. And that's what people get after working years and years and years. And then you build that passion. So passion is an exchange for your career capital. Yeah. It is earned. Passion is earned. And I think that's the main message that I want to get across through the things that I've been reading and learning. Passion is very much earned. It's not a given birthright. It has to be exchanged for your hard work and working smart as well and working right. So, yeah.
I think when we talked about a lot of this when we talk about deliberate practice, a name that comes into mind, although people might not have made connections for me, is David Goggins. And
elaborate.
As much as I love this guy and what he does and his ability to do it, I'm very cautious about how people take in the teachings, because one mindset I apply when I kind of look at like motivation speakers, gurus, like even priests at church and everything, is that people who are always at the top of their game usually have a holier than thou mentality, right? It's like, only I understand Jesus better than you could ever understand Jesus. I understand this task better than you could ever understand it. When it comes to pain, I can handle so much pain and no one else can handle as much pain as me. And the reason why it's important sometimes to have that mindset is you put yourself at a point that's so high, it's an aspirational. goal. And it's an unattainable aspiration to a point where people will constantly keep chasing that goal to kind of reach your level. But the only way they can reach your level is either just pretend they have or keep following you to reach that. And if you're following someone, you're always behind them because you can't be following someone unless you're behind them, right? And bringing it into more context is like, you go to church, you listen to the priest, you keep going to church, you keep wanting to get closer to God, wherever it is, you keep wanting to follow that, but you're always going to his church to kind of get to that place. So he's constantly bringing you in, and he's able to like use that marketing approach to bring it in. Turn it on to like David Goggins. There's no way I can ever assume I'll be able to run 300 miles straight or 100 miles straight like the hyper marathons he does, right? There's a lot of sacrifice I have to make that I'm not comfortable doing. But I also want to be in a position where I can apply that mentality to, I've got coursework to do. I need to stay up till like 3 o'clock and I'm always tired. So I'm going to like use David Goggins as my inspiration to like achieve that goal. Like he's doing something crazy that I can't achieve, but maybe I can learn little bits on that journey to achieve that mindset. Now, although that's mentality I apply when I look at motivational speakers, gurus, and like people who position themselves in an aspirational role, I am also aware that not everyone approaches this piece of content with that mindset. I think many people approach content like that. Many people approach content like that with the assumption that they will be able to achieve all those goals that person has. And that usually always isn't the case. And why I say that is because the journey towards achieving that goal sometimes is harmful to yourself mentally or physically. Doing a world record pull-up, so you could say that you're the guy who can handle all that pain, doesn't mean everyone can do a world record pull-up. The reason why it's impressive is because he did it. That doesn't mean you now have to go and literally like tear all the muscles in your arm trying to achieve that goal just so you can say, oh, I did it too, right? And there might be a benefit to it. You might become just like David Goggins, really rich off these ideas. But what I'm trying to say is that people need to be aware of the harm they cause themselves on the journey towards success. And people need to be clear on what they're trying to achieve. Yeah, it gets worrying when like we put people like David Goggins at the top and like, oh my God, he's amazing. Because don't get me wrong, he is amazing, but he's amazing within his own right and within how he's achieved things. That doesn't mean you have to replicate every self-damaging thing and break your feet just to get things.
Absolutely. I think again, the reason why my approach to reading and knowledge in general is that I take what I think is valuable. I don't take everybody's word for gospel because everyone has their own different opinions. Everyone's lived different lives, right? And David Goggins is obviously one of the people who I think is incredible. One of the reasons he comes into my head when I'm running, Sam, and prepping for marathons. Like, it's incredibly useful. And I think he's inspired a generation of men and women. Yeah. But again, I think take a pinch of salt for everything that you read and everything that you take in, and think, okay, how can I apply this to my situation? It's like Wim Hof and cold showers, right? Yeah. Or like meditation. Meditation, I'm very on and off with, and it isn't necessarily working for me the way I want it to. So I'm probably going to have to pivot, or it might not be just for me. Same thing with cold showers. I hate the cold. It's something I'm going to get better at. But again, I'll continue to try it. It might not be just for me. Like journaling, I've got to a point where I do that every single day now. I've done it every single day this year. And again, it works for me. It just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It's just that something else might. And I don't think if you've read a book and then you realize it doesn't work, it's fine. You've gained the knowledge from the book and you've actually discovered that, it doesn't work for me, but something else might. Yeah. And I think that kind of goes off to what you're saying. Because some people do take the Goggins shit too far and end up hurting themselves and injuring themselves. Yeah. But I think we are all about, me and you and I in particular, we're all about balance and seeing what are the lessons that you can learn from these individuals who have definitely lived these lives and take on their knowledge. Like, there's no way I want to run 100 miles and stuff like that, because that's ridiculous.
I think there's also one thing we've not mentioned, I think, in the idea of deliberate practice and deal with the uncomfortable towards being able to achieve your passion is it's also healthy to have a cutoff point. And I don't want to end our episode with kind of like hyping everyone up to go out there and try it and, try hard. And even if you don't like it, keep going and build a habit of like wanting to try hard and enjoy the process and all these things. I think there is something to having a personal cutoff point for what you're working on, because there is something to just burning yourself out and not achieving your goals or not achieving the dreams and enjoying the process and everything, but like just not doing the thing, like not being able to actually achieve what you're working towards. And I think the cutoff point for everyone's pretty consistent. And I think if everyone looks at it, the outcome of it is different, but the way of trying to find the cutoff point is pretty consistent for everyone. And for me, my understanding of it is this: if I look at the value of the work I'm putting in, I compare that value to the outcome that I'm expecting, and every day I apply that value and I look at the outcome. At the end of it, do I get a positive return? And a good way of doing it is like, it's like a maths problem, right? I earn X amount right now and put my wage out there, and I divide it into like, this is how much I make, this is how much I make a month, this is how much I make a week, blah, blah. And then I look at like what I'm working towards, and the outcome of it is I want to achieve X amount of money. That's my measure of success. That's like the amount of money I make and the amount of sleep I get and all this stuff. Like the amount of fulfillment I'm getting are my measurements of success. So I've kind of got like a number at the top, like a rating for like my
I get that.
I've got like a amount of money I make, and every time I put effort towards something, I kind of subtract from that number. And if I'm looking at it as like the pace I'm learning or the energy I'm putting into this is taken away from that outcome, and if by the time I reach that outcome, will I have a negative return? If that's the case, then I have to kind of sit there and have a chat with myself and be like, am I just trying to prove people wrong? Or is this really like something I should be doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's just have that conversation with yourself, because then you kind of do that checking, you check your inventory, you do that reassessment.
I think,
and you kind of see if it's worth it or not.
I think as well, you need to add a component of time in there. Like, for example, the other day we had a business meeting midweek, and we wanted to figure out this thing with like posting. And I said, Sam, you need to go to bed because it will take you 5 minutes tomorrow, and it will take an hour right now. And again, one thing I would say for you is that you need to have an off switch.
I do.
For sure.
I burned myself out that day. That was terrible.
Yeah, I know you did. And I could tell. And that's I think we need to keep each other accountable, because because a week like this week hasn't been as sustainable. Like, because I haven't done anything like Monday to Friday. I didn't like take much breaks. I didn't like sit down, chill, like watch TV and things like that, which relax me. It was all editing, work, and podcast. And like, I didn't see like Rosie like much this week as well. And again, it was a very much imbalanced week, but it was one of those weeks that needed to happen. And I acknowledged that it very much focused on what I needed to do this week, but it was just one of those weeks where calls were moved and things like that, and it was an off balance. So there is an opportunity cost, and I think being able to kind of center yourself is very important. By the way, I completely skipped by this. You name dropped your fiance earlier.
Actually,
yeah, you did.
Actually,
you said? Oh, you said
my fiance. You know what?
I can bleep it out, but we'll keep it in.
Keep it.
But I just wanted to say that because you called me out.
It's not
dropping roles last week.
It's not hard to see it eventually.
It's not.
Someone will do that search. You can work it out.
Yeah,
not exactly.
I'll come to your door next week.
That's what Joe was like. Show her she's real. But yeah, no. I think we've been going on for a while.
We set an hour 15.
Hour 15, yeah. This has been a good episode.
This is good. We're getting better as the weeks go.
We are getting better. We're getting better at sticking to the bloody topic or the focus of the episode, to be fair. We're getting a lot better at that.
Yeah.
And I think, like we talked about, deliberate practice, over time we can only get better. What I'd love is to be able to like be on episode 100 and look back and see how different things are. This is definitely...
We're gonna clip this. We're gonna clip this for episode 100.
And then come up and be like, yo...
Hey,
I'm like, oh,
we're still ass.
So, I wonder what. Imagine I don't have any hair. Imagine I'm bald. Like, I must be nice to have hair. Imagine.
Yeah, I can't relate to that, bro. Like, that's why I have to have a bit. All right, guys. Time for the outro. Instagram, the podcast Evolve. Email us. at thepodcastevolve@gmail.com, TikTok, The Podcast Evolve, YouTube, like and subscribe because we're trying to get that shiny. We want 100K.
Shiny.
All right? Please.
Yes.
We want that shine. We want that shine on that wall, please.
Thank you.
Samuel, anything else to add?
Not much else to add. Have a great day. Have a wonderful life. Follow your passion and exercise it with a craftsman's mindset. Okay, that's the learning.
Also, Also follow Anxious Extrovert on Instagram. Follow Zana Studios, XNDER.
Thank you. I always forget to drop my own business. You always have to do it for me. Thank you. I'm terrible.
Right. See you guys next week. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye. Bye.